All right, guys, week 16 is here, and while most of the country is just celebrating the holiday season, spending time with family, doing all the Christmas cheer and holiday traditions, we will be glued to our TV sets as it is semifinals week, one of the biggest weeks for fantasy football, and so many matchups that we have to take care of. So we break it all down here. Guys I'm looking forward to, guys I want to avoid. Looking at all the matchups, ones I'm looking forward to, quick hits, best of the rest, you know the drill. So go ahead, like, subscribe, find me on here and over on Sleeper, and I'll see you after this intro that hasn't changed since day one. Welcome back into TwinTakes Fantasy Football, and we are so close. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Two more really crucial weeks for fantasy. Semifinals for most of us this week, finals next week. So going to be taking care of a lot of things today as injuries, player designations, matchups, all this stuff has impacted the way we look at the game and what matchups I want to take advantage of. So without further ado, let's get into the first one. And we got to start tonight, kicking off Thursday Night Football with Jaguars at the New York Jets, where the Jets are currently favored by 1 point, over-under sitting at a measly 38.5 points, and giving New York Jets a projected point total of 19.5, while the Jags are projected for 18.5 points. And these Thursday night games have really increased their caliber as of late. I know the primetime games were really bogus, for lack of a better word, because we keep it PG on this channel, to start off the season, but really come on as strong as of late. Two teams here with playoff aspirations on the line and in desperate need of a win to advance their respective playoff campaigns. Jaguars are surging with Trevor Lawrence over the past 5 games. He's now being labeled as an elite tier quarterback. A lot of the talking heads around the industry saying which players would you which quarterbacks would you pick to start a campaign over him or start a roster or franchise over him? And I mean, he's up there in that top 5 category. So his ascendance has been drastic, to say the least. And on the other hand, the Jets are trying to hold on to dear life as Zach Wilson mans the helm. Funny enough, these were the 2 first overall picks, the 101 in Lawrence, 102 in Wilson in the 2001 draft. And they are currently on very different trajectories. Trevor ascending to that elite status as a sophomore, and Zach Wilson has already lost his job to backup Mike White, and he is currently the backup, trying not to mess up this offense, but maybe just given that whole narrative, Wilson will have a little extra motivation to play well tonight. For the Jets, the big question is, how do you handle this running back room? Michael Carter's on the field for a higher percentage of snaps, but Donovan Knight got the most total opportunities in the past game. Frankly, my personal opinion, the reasoning for why Michael Carter is on the field more, and this is also something that was discussed pretty heavily coming into the season in the Michael Carter versus Breece Hall splits, is that Michael Carter is just frankly a much better a pass blocker, a pass protector when it comes to the running back position, allowing the quarterback to have more time in the pocket. So especially on play action plays, on passing down plays, Michael Carter will be out there to help keep Zach Wilson, Mike White, Joe Flacco, whoever's in the pocket upright for a little bit longer. And this is also a Jags defense that is bleeding points to the running back position. They're not great. I mean, it's a high scoring offense, but you see like a lot of these Jags games have been hitting the over. So, a lot of points being susceptible to the opposing offenses, and there'd be a much better approach if this wasn't a true running back by committee. That's Saleh was leading here, and just the way he is using these running backs does muddy the water a little bit. But frankly, for me personally, I would follow the opportunities, not the snap share, and go with Donovan Knight as the lead back if you have to play one this coming Thursday night. For the Jags, a question we ask so many times on this channel: what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object? And yes, I know we throw around that question so loosely, but I think it can be applied here with, Trevor Lawrence's ascendance, how dynamic this Jags offense has been under Doug Peterson. But, this is a remarkably stout defense on the Jets side, led by Defensive Rookie of the Year candidate Sauce Gardner. It'll certainly be a tough test for the Jags as they venture up north in cold and windy New Jersey. But I really do think that Trevor Lawrence is up for the task. I think his ascendance is not a farce or not a aberration. And it's kind of crazy the difference that coaching makes. A terrible coach versus a great coach. I mean, we've seen so many interviews come out from the Jags locker room where they're like, what's the difference between last year and this year? coaching, just so definitively, so matter-of-factly that they answer that question quickly. And obviously, one of the guys came out and said, oh yeah, I feel bad for Trevor Lawrence not having a rookie year, alluding to the year under Urban Meyer. People saying, yeah, I would die for Doug Peterson. It's just crazy how awful Urban Meyer is. But, it's great to see that there's not even that Doug Peterson's a great coach, just being a capable coach and unlocking Trevor Lawrence. So now let's get into the tiers. Must starts, Trevor Lawrence, obviously. Zay Jones, his emergence over the past 2 games has been unreal, and I think he can take advantage. While Sauce is shadowing Christian Kirk, Zay Jones should have an absolute field day. Christian Kirk, even against Zay Jones, even against Sauce Gardner, I still think he's a must start. Evan Ingram, just a target monster, seeing nearly 10 targets per game over the past 3 games. Travis Etienne as well. It's a stout defense, but he's going to be heavily involved in this offense. And then on the Jet side, Garrett Wilson and Zonovan Knight are your must starts. In the probably start category, you still have Michael Carter. He's going to be out there and at least 50% of snaps. He has pass catching upside. And Elijah Moore, even with Zach Wilson at the quarterback position, I think Elijah Moore is a good play. He saw 7 targets last week. He found the end zone a week ago. I mean, he is getting more involved, so I wouldn't mind flexing Elijah Moore. And in a desperation start, you can start Zach Wilson and Tyler Conklin. Just frankly, I'm following the touchdowns with Zach Wilson. Tyler Conklin has been a very big touchdown threat if we go back even to the start of the 2022 season. So he got 2 touchdowns last week. I mean, all you want in a tight end is that touchdown upside. So Tyler Conklin with Zach Wilson at the quarterback position, I'd be okay starting him and chasing those points there. Next matchup, Bills at the Bears, where Buffalo is currently favored by 8.5 points and an over-under, shockingly, of 40.5 points, which means Buffalo is projected to have 25 points and Chicago is projected to have 16.5 points. Looking at this game, I was really, again, shocked to see that over-under of only 40.5 points. I have to imagine this game wildly hits the over just based on the narratives and the projection we've seen from both teams as of late. And frankly, for fantasy, I'm secretly hoping it hits over. More points, higher scoring means more benefit for us fantasy managers and the players on our roster. I mean, these defenses just really aren't that good. Bears, obviously, I don't really have to go into that. But I mean, the Bills just have been so injured over the course of the season. They've had injuries to their secondary. Kaiir Elam hasn't come on as strong as they thought he would. And the run defense has been absolutely abysmal with Von Miller going out for the rest of the season with that torn ACL. I mean, just look at last game. We had Raheem Mostert go for about 150 yards. He broke off that insane 60-yard run play. So, I mean, you stay in the flames. We talked about last week, we were looking for guys to play against this Bills front four. And, would you look at that? This is a Bears team that is totally reliant on the run defense. The 7th overall rusher on the season is Justin Fields. And you also have David Montgomery in the backfield, who's a capable running back. And Khalil Herbert is coming back from IR to lead this insane rushing attack of the Chicago Bears. So I think that, they're going to match up really, really well against this Bears defense. They've really been hitting their stride. And I don't think the Bills defense is just going to be able to slow them down. From that standpoint, Von Miller, in the same way Trevor Lawrence elevates his offense, Von Miller tends to elevate his defense. Boogie Basham's production has been down. Ed Oliver's production has been down ever since Von Miller left the lineup. So, I'm really high on the Bears, apparently. Not my favorite team, though. I don't think I've ever revealed my favorite team on this channel yet. Maybe I will later. But it's not the Bears. Conversely, on the other side, this is a very, very high-powered Bills offense led by another fantasy MVP, Josh Allen. I don't really think I have to tell you that, but they have a horde of incredible skill position players. James Cook is really coming on strong in the past few games, really getting more and more utilized in this offense. Dawson Knox is finally getting involved after that injury to start out the season. Really a huge end zone threat. And of course, you have a top 5 wide receiver in the league in Stephon Diggs. In my mind, there's absolutely no way this is not a high scoring game. I think both these offenses are going to go back and forth at will, putting up points. And I think both these quarterbacks will probably be the quarterback 1 and 2. I really do believe that. So I'm loving all the assets in this game. So let's start into our tiers where you have our must start of Justin Fields. Obviously, I mean, he's just so good. Put up 23 points last week against the Philadelphia Eagles defense. So yeah, amazing. And it's home field for them. It's their territory. Justin Fields got to protect the turf. David Montgomery, Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, and Dawson Knox round out the must-start categories. Dawson Knox just insanely high touchdown upside. And, a high-scoring game, you want those tight ends that can potentially, just get touches, get passes, get just involved in a lot of points to go around. Probably start, you do have Gabe Davis. He's not in the must-start category. He's been very disappointing for fantasy over the past 5 weeks, but he does always have that opportunity to go off. So if you need a high risk play, Gabe Davis is your guy. James Cook, Devin Singletary. Again, this is a pretty abysmal rushing defense from the Chicago Bears, so I think both of them will get their fair share of touches. And Cole Kmet is the preeminent passing threat for the Bears, so especially with Chase Claypool not doing much and Darnell Mooney out for the rest of the season, I think Cole Kmet should have a touchdown, should be involved as well, so you can start him. In a desperation mode, you can flex Khalil Herbert if active. I think he'll come back, and we know Eberflus and the brass in Chicago really, really like him, what he can bring to the table. And also Isaiah McKenzie. He had some really good games. I mean, he's going to be working the slot against this Bears defense that got rid of Robert Quinn, got rid of Roquan Smith. Their linebacking core is very, very undermanned right now. I think working the slot with Isaiah McKenzie is going to be a very, very productive day for him. Last game I want to highlight here and a matchup I'm looking forward to is going to be Giants at the Vikings, where Minnesota is favored by 3 points. And over under 47.5 points, where New York Giants are projected for 21.5 points and Minnesota is projected for 25 points. And another important game with important playoff implications. I mean, and mostly for the Giants, as the Vikings have they've already locked up the NFC North as of last week. They've won the NFC North. Good for them. And right now, they're really only jockeying for position, whether it's the second or third spot in the NFC with the 49ers, as the Eagles have basically locked up the number 1 seed and held the tiebreaker over them. The Giants, however, do need basically 2 out of the 3 wins. They can win. They can get into the playoffs if they don't get those 2 wins, but in order to control their own destiny, they need 2 out of the 3 wins of their last 3 games in order to lock up that wild card spot. And this is a vulnerable Vikings defense that almost lost to the Colts, and it seems like a really great place for the Giants to start to solidify their wild card campaign. Another really funny narrative coming into this game is that these are the 2 teams that people have really been screaming from the rooftops all season that they are both just so overrated. Their records, unlike in that famous saying, you are not what your record says you are for the Vikings and the Giants. Apparently, that's just way inflated to the actual talent level that they provide in the field. So let the battle of overrated teams commence. I'm here for it. It'll be interesting to see, the biggest question for me, interesting to see who dictates pace of play in this game. Is it going to be the Vikings who push the ball down the field against this Giants secondary through the air with Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen and TJ Hawkinson and really, pick up the pace of play? Or it's going to be the Giants who want to draw out this game at a very slow and methodical pace and run the ball on the ground with Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley and maybe even Matt Breida against a very, very susceptible Vikings defense that has been the absolute worst in the league over the past 5 weeks. For my money, I think the Giants will actually dictate this pace of play. I think he's going to be I think Saquon is just too good, and this Vikings defense is just that bad. And Brian Daboll is just that smart of a coach, where he'll be able to control that pace of play. It's going to be very methodical pace, and because of that, I do not think this is going to be as high scoring as Vegas thinks it is. So here's how I would break down my tiers and players to start in this matchup, given how I think given how the Giants I think will control this game. In the must start, you have Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones. Duh. Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook, TJ Hawkinson, Kirk Cousins, those are the 4 must starts from the Vikings side. I know TJ Hawkinson had a bad game last week, but that's just because the game script got away from him. It was a heavily quick downfield passes during the ferocious historic comeback against the Colts. He still saw 9 targets, just couldn't convert that into a lot of opportunities. So, I mean, he's been one of those heavily utilized tight ends since his trade to the Vikings. So I wouldn't overthink it. Keep playing TJ Hawkinson and Kirk Cousins. In the probably start category, I have Adam Thielen and Darius Slayton. Adam Thielen, again, if it's not going to be that high scoring of a game, this is a Giants team where they do tend to hit the unders on most of their games. If he's the fourth option behind Justin Jefferson, behind a TJ Hawkinson, behind a Dalvin Cook, I don't know if I really want to try to chase points at that point. And Darius Slayton, again, he is kind of fallen into that wide receiver 1 designation for the Giants. There will be points given up by this Vikings defense, and I think that Darius Slayton is in a good position to scoop up at least some of those points. So that's the wide receiver I would take a risk on. In desperation, you could start Richie James. There is that chance where the Vikings defense just keeps letting up points and bleeding points, and they try to come back, and they also pass very heavily through the air, and it is a higher scoring game as Vegas thinks it is. So if you really want to go reach on Richie James, that would be a desperation play as well. But what about KJ Osborne? Guys, don't play KJ Osborne, okay? That past game with the 26.7 points, that was kind of an aberration. That was a facade. There's nothing in that game that points to continued sustained production by KJ Osborne. He's been on the field for 75% of snaps in at least 10 other games this season. He's seen double-digit targets in 2 or 3 other games this season, and none of that has materially transitioned to continued production or continued utilization in this offense at any point in his career with the Vikings. I don't think that he's going to be that late breakout wide receiver for fantasy football that leads you to fantasy championships. I could be wrong, but I just don't see any stats that show me consistent production. I think it was kind of this very unique situation where they're putting on this ferocious comeback versus the Colts, and he was utilized as a downfield quick strike threat, which is where he really exceeds. And given my personal opinion, this is going to be a very slow and methodical game. I would not play KJ Osborne. So that being said, let's do quick hits, best of the Reds, and we'll start out with the Eagles at the Cowboys. I do see a update right now. I know it says that Hurts' shoulder is not spotted at practice on Wednesday, which, I mean, I'm not really surprised about that. And this is a game that really relies on the health of Jalen Hurts. Came out earlier this week, again, sprained shoulder. There are a lot of rumors, sprained shoulder, separated shoulder, broken clavicle, can miss up to 2 weeks. And with the Eagles only needing 1 win over the past 3 games to lock up the number 1 seed in the NFC, I mean, I would personally set Hurts, and I think the Eagles coaching staff will do the same. Be smart. You're not worried about winning right now. You're worried about winning when it comes time for the playoffs, and you want your guy at full health. You don't want to get this injury any worse. Just look at what the Commanders did with RG3. Don't be the Commanders. Don't be Dan Snyder. I think the Eagles are much, much smarter than that. My money is on Jalen Hurts sitting for this week. And with Minshew at the helm, I think A.J. Brown and Miles Sanders both take downgrades, especially against this Dallas Cowboys defense that is really, really good. And I would personally even consider sitting Devonta Smith, again, taking the downgrade with Gardner Minshew coming back into the fold. And Dallas Goedert was activated from the IR and should be active in this game. And he will probably be taking away from a lot of Devonta Smith's targets. Another thing is why people are like, oh, Gardner Minshew is a capable backup. He's one of the best backups in the league. He's going to come right in. Well, he's actually going to be missing walkthroughs and practice on Friday as he is flying and delivering the eulogy at Mike Leach's funeral. Just a small wrinkle that he will have a little bit less time to prepare for this game. So just keep that in mind. Real world events have consequences on fantasy football, and obviously, rest in peace, Mike Leach, an incredible coach, and it was a huge impact on Gardner Minshew's life. And I know he will be. He wouldn't miss the eulogy and the funeral for Mike Leach for anything in the world. So that's what Gardner Minshew is going to do, and he should come back and play. He'll be back on the plane in Dallas in time to play the game. However, just won't be there for walkthrough and prep. I mean, for the Cowboys, they should definitely be amped up for this game. They're going to start, you just start your studs. Start Zeke, Pollard, Schultz, CeeDee, Dak. Don't worry too much about it. Especially against this Cowboys, or against Eagles secondary, I wouldn't worry too much about Gallup. Saints at Brown, where Cleveland's currently favored by 3 points. I'm very, very wary of this game. It has the lowest over-under of any NFL game in the past decade. 10 years. It is going to be a slugfest, so I'm avoiding assets at all costs. Kamara should have an okay game against this 30th ranked run defense. However, he hasn't been good. Even last week when we thought he's going to have a bounce back game, he has a great schedule for the playoffs, but he doesn't look fully healthy. He doesn't have that same burst. He looks kind of worn out and tired. Unfortunately, Kamara, I don't think he's going to be that good. For the Browns, and then honestly, after Kamara, I'm not really chasing any points. I'm not chasing Rashid Shaheed or Juwan Johnson. Again, lower scoring game. I don't think it's going to translate to production for anyone outside. I think it's going to be literally a 20-point game. And on the Browns side, I mean, God, Deshaun Watson is such a cancer. I mean, I knew it was going to be bad when he came back in, but I didn't think it was going to be this bad. I mean, you play Nick Chubb, but just given on the over-under is heavily influencing how I viewed this game. And just the way that, ever since he came back in, all their games have hit the under. Only had 16 total points in the game last week against the Ravens. So, I mean, you play Nick Chubb because Nick Chubb is that good, and maybe Amari Cooper. But how much production can you really expect from them? Next game is Texans at the Titans, where Tennessee is currently favored by 7 points. And for the love of God, can we get anyone on the Texans roster that we actually know the name of? We don't have to go and look them up on Google to see who's actually starting for this team. No Dameon Pierce. He's on IR for the rest of the year. And honestly, why would you want to play running running back against his Titans number 2 ranked rushing defense. If Nico Collins does make his return and is healthy and Brandon Cooks is still out, he's basically the only healthy asset. And I would play him against this Titans defense that, they're abysmal. They've given up, 300 pass yards in 2 of the last 3 games. Yeah, they were good against the Chargers, but, they have been pretty brutal elsewhere. So, I think you could definitely play Nico Collins there. And then for the Titans, you play Derrick Henry and you get out. He has something ridiculous like 200 yards in 4 of the past 5 games against the Texans, and he's going to go absolutely beast mode. Even with Tannehill's health, whether he's healthy, whether it's Malik Willis starting, I think Derrick Henry is going to have himself an absolute game. Expect like a 40 points. We talked about Sistine Chapel-esque ceilings. This man is going to be ascended into heaven by the time this game is over. And even with Tannehill's health, just with how offense is going to run through Derrick Henry, I would not even start Traylon Burks, would not start any pass catching options, not even Chigoziem Okonkwo. So, yeah. Tannehill, get out. Next game, Bengals at Patriots. And this is my sleeper game of the week. Not as in like a sneaky good game, but like go check out all my player breakdowns over on Sleeper.HQ. I really break down a ton of guys that are really relevant in this game. Joe Mixon, T. Higgins, Ramondre Stevenson. Highlight all those players, break them down, all the relevant stats, go way in depth over there that I would not do on this channel. So again, check them out. But here is a small preview. I do like a lot of the fantasy assets in this game. I think this is a sleeper game, and the fact that it will be a sneaky good game. I think it will be sneaky high scoring, and I think you have some really nice options for fantasy in here. So go check out over on Sleeper HQ, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Go check them out. They should be up by the time this video is posting as well. Next game, Lions at Panthers, where Detroit's favored by 2.5 points, and this should be a really fun game for the Lions. They should have an absolute field day against the Panthers defense that is bottom 5 in the league. Amon-Ra, smash. DeAndre Swift, smash. Jared Goff, smash. DJ Chark, I think, is a smash play as well as his utilization has been in this offense. I think even Jameson Williams is a sneaky good flex play. He found the end zone and he's been burning guys. He looks really good out there on the field. And only issue is if Jared Goff can actually throw the ball to him or if he's going to continue to underthrow Jameson Williams. Jamal Williams' utilization has greatly declined as Swift has reclaimed the number 1 RB spot in the Lions offense. And this fantasy day is entirely relevant on this if he gets a touchdown or not, which, it's not entirely unlikely against this Panthers defense, but it just makes him a very, very volatile fantasy asset. So I make him a desperation flex at best. DJ Moore should have an absolute massive day. He had a great game last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And again, if they're going to fall behind early to the Lions, I think it's going to turn into a pass script very, very quickly, very, very early on. DJ Moore is a beast as a wide receiver. This is a Detroit Lions defense that is 31st in points given up to the fantasy wide receiver position. So everything is spelling out for a great fantasy day from DJ Moore. And honestly, start Sam Darnold. Over the past 5 weeks, Detroit has been the absolute worst defense against quarterbacks, giving up the most points to the quarterback position. And Sam Darnold is a good stream. I think he's a competent quarterback. And this is not just me spewing out of this is me following my own advice. In my Dynasty League, in the semifinal matchup, I am starting Sam Darnold. He is my quarterback. So yeah, I'm a believer of what I preach here on this channel. So I am starting Sam Darnold, and if he goes down in flames, I'm going down with you. Next game, Ravens at Falcons, where Baltimore's favored by 7.5 points. It's kind of another icky game that I really am looking to avoid entirely. You have the Ravens playing really uninspired football, especially with Lamar Jackson out. And how much confidence do you have in Desmond Ridder in a rookie's second NFL start against a team that has an incredible defense? Ever since they acquired Roquan Smith, they just got that much better. And it seems even the secondary is playing a little bit better. Also, this is a team in the Ravens that they really haven't hit an over on any of their games since week 3, so it's going to be a very, very low-scoring game. Frankly, my favorite asset in this game is J.K. Dobbins against this abysmal rushing defense of the Atlanta Falcons. And after J.K. Dobbins, you cannot pay me to start anyone else. Oh, but there's so many guys. Let me talk you through. I'm not going to chase Tyler Allgeier's points from last week. This is a very stout Ravens run defense. They have been top 5 in run defense ever since they acquired Roquan Smith at the trade deadline. He's been volatile, he's been inconsistent, and you still have other guys like Cordell Patterson eating the production. I don't chase Allgeier's points. Mark Andrews is such a question mark, frankly. He does not look healthy. I don't know what it is, but he is not 100% healthy. And without Lamar Jackson in there, I don't know. I can't really trust the quarterback play. And honestly, at this point, I'd be playing Evan Ingram over Mark Andrews. That's just frankly where I have him ranked in my personal rankings. Evan Ingram at this point has a better QB and has been seeing more targets. Mark Andrews, for as good a tight end he is, I think he needs to just reset on the season. So that's my feelings on the Ravens-Falcons game. Pretty bad. Commanders at the 49ers. San Francisco is favored by 7 points. And this game, honestly, in my opinion, is really easy to break down. So you play Christian McCaffrey as always. I mean, he's a beast. He's matchup proof. He's going to do it on the ground and through the air. You take dart throws on Kittle or Ayuk. I know Kittle had an amazing game last week, but the week prior, it was Ayuk who had the good game, and Kittle was only like 4.8 fantasy points, something like that. And Brock Purdy's only completing like 16 passes or so since he's taken over. So it's really taking the offense out of Brock Purdy's hands. Okay, hopefully that didn't reverberate through your ears. I apologize if that was loud for that little hit on my mic there. But yeah, I mean, Kyle Shanahan's not giving Brock Purdy more than he can handle. He's giving him, again, an offense that he can, facilitate. He's not driving the offense. He's not a guy that's carrying the offense. He's being more a facilitator and a production of being in a really good system. So there's just not that many throws to take advantage of, and maybe one of the guys, either Kittle or Ayuk, will have a good game, and you can take your dart throw on which one you think it's going to be. I'm not going to mess around with any Commanders running backs against the number one ranked run defense of the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, you play Scary Terry. He's had a great game. He's been on a tear. But my main intrigue in this game is going to be Jahan Dotson. He's been so good. And if he didn't get injured halfway through the season, I really think he would be in that Offensive Rookie of the Year consideration. He has an insane touchdown upside. He's heavily utilized in the offense. And just go watching the highlights. He has some of the best hands, not only for a rookie, but some of the best hands in the NFL. Some of the catches he makes, the way he secures the ball, it's just truly incredible. I think he's such a talented player. If you're redrafting now, he would definitely be a top 5 pick in a rookie draft. I mean, I think he would go higher than some of the wide receivers, definitely higher than 16 if you did the actual NFL draft. So I'm flexing him with confidence. I'm playing him in my leagues. I think he's just that talented. Next game, Raiders at Steelers, where Pittsburgh is favored by 2.5 points. A game that's going to be fairly forgettable in the grand scheme of things. Frankly, it's laughable if Pittsburgh's even favored at this point with how badly they're playing. I mean, you play Adams, you play Blake Jacobs, and you play Najee. You play the studs in this game. You don't mess around with anyone else. I wouldn't madden yourself with either Trubisky or Pickett throwing to these Steelers wide receivers. I mean, the passing offense is completely incompetent under Matt Canada. Side note here, I did a mock draft for the 2023, and I got to the Steelers pick, and I was honestly wondering if they could draft a new offensive coordinator. Moving on. Packers at Dolphins, where Miami is currently favored by 6 points. Packers running backs should have an absolute field day against this offense. I know they brought in Bradley Chubb, but the running defense is still pretty abysmal. So, I mean, you can start both. A.J. Dillon's heavily involved. Concussion protocol. He's already cleared from concussion protocol, so I wouldn't worry about that. Aaron Jones should have an absolute field day down in Miami. I do think Waddle, we saw him have a great game against the Bills last week, and I think he's a smash play yet again. Tyreek is going to draw the coverage from Jair Alexander on the outside, so Waddle should have a field day against Rasul Douglas, Adrian Amos, and some of those lesser tier DBs for the Packers. I mean, you're going to stay with Raheem Mostert. He's really good. The Packers' run defense is really, really not that good. We saw Cam Akers just chunking them for like 9, 10, 12, 14 yards. He started off with like a 14-yard rush against the Packers on Monday night. So Raheem Mostert, with Jeff Wilson still continuing to be injured, Raheem Mostert is definitely a great play, and I think he'll be active on the ground all day. I don't overthink this one. You start your studs, you don't reach. Play Watson, don't play Doubs, and should be a fun game. I do expect this to be a fairly high-scoring game. So with that being said, that's going to wrap up our quick hits best of the rest. We're making pretty good progress. So let's jump into our matchup of the week.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
Matchup of the week, to the shock of absolutely no one, is Seahawks at Chiefs. I know these matchups have been very predictable. Sorry, they're just good matchups. Kansas City is currently favored by 9.5 points. I think Seahawks might cover that a little bit. I think it should be a little bit more competitive with just the way Seahawks have been playing. But let's get into it. Over-under is at 49 points, which means Seahawks are currently projected to score 28.5 points, while Seattle is only at 19 points. So, I missed the days of the game of the weeks having over 50 points, but it's just been a crazy year, and scoring has been an insane drop-off. It's down, I want to say down 20% since 2 years ago and down 15% from last year. I don't know what the factors that are playing into that is, whether it's injuries, better defenses, just players getting older, or the longer season impacting them as well. There's a whole slew of issues that compounds the problem of like lower scoring. That's just something we have to deal with. But this game should buck that trend entirely. It is going to be an absolute fireworks show. Should be an absolute offensive banana. 2 dynamic offenses, 2 pretty woeful defenses. You got Geno Smith and Patrick Mahomes, QB7 and QB4 in the year for fantasy football. DK Metcalf, wide receiver 15, should only be even better without Tyler Lockett in the matchup. Travis Kelce, tight end 1 on the year. Absolutely amazing. Kenneth Walker, RB8, since Rashad Penny went down to injury and he took over sole possession of this backfield, even with that missed game a couple weeks ago. Jerick McKinnon, back-to-back 30-point weeks, back-to-back RB1s performances in the weeks, and is only going to get better. I think he's going to be an absolute league winner going forward. So I know it's devastating for the Seahawks. Like we touched on this earlier. Tyler Lockett is out with that broken finger, and you might think that's going to downplay this Seattle Seahawks offense. But listen, Marquise Goodwin, he's been playing really good. He's shown flashes of brilliance. I think he can step in and be a really good deep threat and really take over for Tyler Lockett's role. And honestly, I think the better thing that's even more impactful than Tyler Lockett's absence is Kenneth Walker's return. He came back last week against 49ers defense and actually absolutely ran really hard on the ground, got involved in the passing game. Didn't show any signs of slowdown with that ankle injury. Looks like he's just absolutely great. That ankle jam, whatever the heck that was from Pete Carroll, what he said, apparently he's not affecting him anymore. And I mean, he's such a dynamic runner that just adds another aspect to the Seattle offense. I think it's going to make this offense a little bit more balanced, which, even with him getting more touches, it's actually a boon for DK Metcalf and Geno Smith, because with that balanced running attack, it's going to keep defenses more honest in the trenches and really open up the passing lanes in the secondary for Marquise Goodwin, for DK Metcalf, and for Geno Smith. For the Chiefs, McKinnon's emergence just only adds to the embarrassment of riches that Andy Reid possesses at the skill player position. And you have Jet McKinnon, Travis Kelce, Pacheco, Juju, MVS, Kadarius Toney. I mean, it means that they just have so many ways with which to execute their defensive foe and absolutely spur on this offense. So good for the Chiefs. Not so good for fantasy, as it means that not every player is going to be great for fantasy week in and week out. We had a couple disappointing weeks from Travis Kelce, but we will try to break down which ones are going to be most relevant in our player tiers below. So let's get into those right now. What a great transition. Thank you. Must starts: Patrick Mahomes, obviously, Travis Kelce, Isaiah Pacheco against this run defense. You have to start Isaiah Pacheco. Jerick McKinnon, this is because he's been more involved in the passing game than in the running game. I mean, you start both of them, Isaiah Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon. Juju Smith-Schuster, Geno Smith, DK Metcalf, and Kenneth Walker. So many must-starts from this game. I mean, seriously, if you have any assets in this game, God bless you and your semifinal matchup. Probably starting Noah Fant, depending on injury designation. He had a questionable tag earlier in this week, but with Tyler Lockett out, I think he should get more involved in the pass game. MVS, Marquise Goodwin as well, guys that I think are just going to benefit from deep shots and a high-scoring atmosphere. And in desperation, very, very desperate, you can play to Kadarius Toney. He got back on the field. He wasn't very involved last week, but I think as his health progresses, he'll be more utilized in this offense. We saw him have a very high-end role earlier in the season after that trade deadline move. So let's get into, going to highlight players that I'm doing breakdowns over on Sleeper. Like I said earlier, it is massive. We're doing over 50 players because this is such a crucial week. So a ton of players over on Sleeper HQ. Go check them out on YouTube. But the ones I'll be personally handling and I would recommend you to check out, especially if you have any questions on them, are DK Metcalf, Kenneth Walker, Juju Smith-Schuster, Jerick McKinnon, Darius Slayton, KJ Osborne, TJ Hawkinson, Adam Thielen, Joe Mixon, T. Higgins, Ramondre Stevenson, DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams, Chuba Hubbard, and DJ Moore. Quite the list, quite a lot of guys to get into, but if you want some more in-depth analysis, some more stats to project with players with, go in and check them out. And now I will leave you with some parting thoughts for week 16.
There's only one thing that I'm not clear about.
Actually, there is one thing.
One other thing.
All right. First off, parting thoughts. Stay sane. I know it's fantasy football. It's crazy, but it is the holidays. Hope you guys have a wonderful holidays. Merry Christmas if you celebrate that. Merry Hanukkah, or Happy Hanukkah, or whatever you celebrate. I wish you the best of season's greetings. So, stay sane. Don't let fantasy football ruin the time with your family and the time with friends over the holiday season. However, I will take this time to also address how we will handle our schedule over the holiday season. I will not be doing a recap over week 16. Maybe I'll be active on Twitter. I'll be posting stuff on Twitter throughout the weekend, throughout Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I will get back online next Thursday to preview the championship week for week 17. It will be posted a little bit later than normal, later on the day and Thursday. So you can expect that, but I'm sorry, just with travel, with family schedules, with the holiday season, I won't be able to have access to my equipment or access or the time to produce a recap on 15 or on 16. But hopefully you are in jubilation for moving on to the championship match, or in mourning from losing the semifinal match. So either way, I'm sure plenty of other channels out there will be doing recaps. And I will again see you guys back here in 1 week to do our last preview of the year for week 17. All right, have fun, guys. Happy holidays. Enjoy your semifinal matchups and enjoy the week 16 slate of games.